take first question from Luciano with End Zoners.
Hey, Mason. I hope we're doing well, and thanks for your time. Does facing North Dakota State's great defensive line mean extra motivation to you as an offensive line? And would you say this is the toughest matchup you can have in the FCS?
I would say that they're a very good defensive line. I don't know if it's necessarily an extra motivation standpoint. I like to think that I'm pretty motivated all the time. But they play really hard, and that's the way the game's supposed to be played, and I look forward to it for sure.
Great. Thanks, and good luck.
Thank you.
We'll go to Matt Zimmer from the Argus Leader for the next question.
Hey, Mason. How happy are you to see Mark Gronowski getting this opportunity after, getting hurt right away the last time? And what kind of game are you expecting from him? Because he's obviously probably been chomping at the bit to get out here and play in Frisco again.
I would say he's honestly earned his way back. A lot of people say he's really deserving, but I think he's really worked really hard to get back to this point. And we're really excited to see what he can do, and hopefully he can play his best ball.
Does it feel like he's taken his game to another level? I mean, obviously he was the MVP that freshman spring season, but this year it seems like he's become a lot better as an overall quarterback, and also just the way he's played down the stretch here, it seems like he's playing his best football. What do you think?
He's playing really confident right now, and from a leadership standpoint, he's been doing a really good job keeping everybody together, and we've been having a lot of fun together, and that's what we want to keep doing.
How about Isaiah Davis? You remember what he did the last time you guys were down there? Looking forward to hopefully seeing another performance like that from him, especially given how well he's run the ball in the playoffs.
No doubt. I mean, I like to think that we help Isaiah Davis out a lot, but he definitely makes us look pretty good sometimes, and love that dude, and he works his tail off, and he's definitely earned it.
Thanks, Mason.
Thank you.
We'll go to Chris Shad from the Brookings Register for the next question.
Mason, you kind of answered a little bit with the last question, but what is it that you think helps Isaiah Davis have these big playoff performances this late in the season?
I think it's everybody, honestly. Our tight ends coming together with us blocking, and the big plays come when our receivers really get after it in the run game. And the Yankees do an exceptional job with that, and it definitely pays dividends for us.
You guys during fall camp had a lot of shuffling going on along the offensive line. Then you guys settled down when the season started. At what point do you feel like the offensive line came together as a group this season?
I would say pretty early on in conference play. I know from my standpoint, starting back in 2019, I was a young buck, and everything looks pretty fast. You're a little intimidated, not knowing what's going on, and seeing these guys get the little confidence and swagger to them has been really fun, and we've definitely gelled to this point.
I was able to talk with John O'Brien a little bit earlier this year, and he transferred in, and he immediately mentioned the 605 hog mentality. As someone who's been here for years, what does that mentality mean for you and the success of this group?
I think it just is something that has been instilled for a long time. Honestly, I think of it as just playing as hard as you can. I mean, our coaches are going to put us in the best possible situations, and so just going out there and playing as hard as you can, and mistakes are going to happen. I mean, that's the game, and so just keep your head down and keep pushing.
Hey, thanks, Mason.
Thank you.
Next question to Zach Borg from Dakota News Now.
Mason, obviously with the time off, they could present a different look, get a little healthier. I know they're All-American D-tackle. Mostert could be playing. How much of a different look are you expecting from them up front and maybe period, considering the fact that they could be a lot healthier going into this one than they were even maybe when you played them the first time?
NDSU has always kind of been that they do what they do. And, they held us to 23 points last time. And so I think they feel decent about how their defense played. And, getting some of their guys back, I would feel as a coach pretty confident in what they could do. And it's definitely going to be an exciting matchup. And I'm glad that all of them are healthy.
How much more personal, not to say you're going to do anything stupid or get overhyped, but how much more personal is this game for guys like you and the other native South Dakotans on the team? You were a red shirt when they lost in the semifinals to NDSU. You grew up. How much more would it mean for you guys to be the first to win a national championship for your home state team?
I think it would mean a lot just to the entire state of South Dakota. They've been kind of hearing this North Dakota State everywhere for the past decade or so, and it would mean a ton, but we're definitely excited.
Right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go next to Craig Haley from Stats Perform.
Yes, thank you for the time, Mason. How important and what kind of factor does your team's recent success against the Bison factor in here?
From an outsider standpoint, I say that people like to think it could be a factor, but I mean, every game's different. Every game plan's different. We know that they're going to play super hard and they're super well coached, and so we're just going to have to go out there and do what we do. And I also have to give you a hard time about your All-American list you put out with all tackles. You got to give some guards some love.
I will note that for next season. Thank you.
Appreciate
Best of
it.
luck.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Zach McKinnell from the Bluebloods.
Appreciate your time, Mason. Offensive line is such a tricky position to scout and understand the success of the overall unit. Can you speak a little bit about how the chemistry and experience about playing together as a unit has played into the success that you guys have had this season?
Yeah, I think we've had some really, really good offensive lines. I would argue that this is probably the closest our offensive line has ever been. We're honestly a bunch of best friends, and there's really no bickering back and forth when people mess up. Everybody's got confidence in each other, and that definitely allows for a more relaxed approach and just go out there and execute to our best ability.
And the final question, you guys have seen this defensive line one time this season already, this will be the rematch. What stylistic challenges do they offer as a defense that gives the offensive line something to think about during game day?
I mean, they're physical, they're big. I think the biggest thing that NDSU has done over teams is how hard they play, and they play football the right way, and it's definitely fun to be a part of that. I mean, I really enjoy playing teams that play the game the right way and just best on best.
Thank you, man. Good luck.
Thank you.
We'll go to Jeff Kolpak from the Fargo Forum.
Hey, Mason, how important is the indoor facility to Northern teams, especially this time of year?
I think it's huge, honestly. And a lot of people say, like, when you play in a cold football game, they're like, oh, I'm not cold, or yada, yada, yada. I would argue that every person last week was definitely really cold out there. And you just got to fight through it and be more mentally tough. But the indoor is definitely a blessing for us.
You guys ever hear much from Coach Stig on the history of these two teams, the Division I rivalry? It started back in like 04, 05 and those years.
Yes, we do. Coach Stig is definitely a big history guy and likes to give us a lot of lessons and definitely a lot of things to learn from, and I think that's good.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we'll try to get through as many questions here as we can before time is up with our student athletes. Go to Eric Peterson from the Fargo Forum.
Hey, Mason, that game back in Fargo, have you ever played as big a role in a game as a lineman, just that key fumble recovery that you got back on, in the second half? And, just describe that play and, I guess how important you think that was for setting up the rest of your season.
I mean, it's a big play. I mean, I just happened to be right there, and I knew that all my teammates were counting on me. And why not give my best effort to try to get that ball away? And honestly, I have faith in every other guy that they would do the same thing. And I think it was a big play, but there's a lot of big plays that have been made that have projected our season.
And just lastly, heading into a championship game, obviously you have the 605 Hogs as your moniker. NDSU has the Rams. Is it kind of interesting to have two programs that almost view their offensive lines as star players, which is probably unique around around college football?
I think it's really cool, and honestly, all the respect in the world to what North Dakota State has done. I mean, I really like seeing their offensive linemen go into the NFL and do all these great things, and I think it's just good for the region, and it definitely puts offensive linemen on the map, and I think it's a really cool thing.
All right, next question from Dom Izzo with WDAY.
You feel like this is the ultimate game? You guys have played on game day. It was 1 versus 2 earlier this season. You've played in the playoffs. Like, this is there's no other matchup left, right?
I think that this is the game that people have been talking about for a long time, and we're definitely excited about it, but ultimately it's still the same football field and it's still 11v11. So you can't really overthink it and overhype it.
I know Zach asked you about being from South Dakota. To have these two states represented, it's going to be on national television. Just even in your wildest dreams growing up in high school, I think this would be a potential to have North Dakota State, South Dakota State on ABC for the whole thing.
You know, I saw South Dakota State on the uprise when I was coming in. I honestly didn't know how it would play out, but I think it's a really cool thing, and I think many people across the nation have definitely looked forward to it.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you.
All right, our final question for Mason will come from Christopher Heidel.
Hey, Mason, this is Chris Heidel from Hermiton Radio in Baltimore. Just talk about this rivalry between South Dakota and North Dakota State. South Dakota State, what is it? Is it almost just like a, Florida State, Florida? How dangerous, what's the rivalry like? Because people on the East Coast don't really know it that well.
You know, it is a big rivalry. I think it's a really cool rivalry because we have a lot of respect for one another. I guess I can't really speak for them, for us, but I know we have a ton of respect for what they've done. And I think everybody around the region, these are the two perennial football teams around here. And there's a lot of confidence, and there's not a lot to do in the Dakotas, so they really take a shining to our football games.